It was a 2007 D Mint Mark Utah quarter that most people overlook every single day. Now, before you rush to your pocket change, let me tell you something that'll make your heart race. This coin wasn't supposed to exist the way it does. It carries a small detail, so small you'd never notice it unless you knew exactly what to look for. But that tiny imperfection is what made this ordinary-looking quarter worth more than a luxury car, a house, or even someone's retirement savings. Point two trains meeting in the middle of the coin, representing the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, a proud symbol of connection and progress. But somewhere along that minting process, something went wrong. Maybe it was a misaligned die. Maybe a mint worker's oversight. Or maybe, just maybe, fate had its hand in this one. Because a handful of Utah quarters came out with strange, unintentional variations, double details, off-center strikes, or missing elements that defied normal production. These weren't supposed to be out there, but they were. And when one lucky collector spotted his quarter under a magnifying glass, what he saw made his jaw drop. The trains looked slightly shifted. The inscriptions seemed blurred, almost as if the coin had been struck twice. And the mint mark, that little D just below "In God We Trust," appeared slightly misplaced, tilted ever so slightly off its axis. Experts later confirmed it. This was a genuine mint error. And not just any error. It was a one-in-a-billion kind of mistake that catapulted an everyday 25-cent piece into a coin worth more than $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word of this rare 2007 D Utah quarter spread, collectors from coast to coast began tearing through their old change. Dealers were shocked at how perfectly preserved the coin was. Bidding wars erupted at private auctions. Some offered hundreds of thousands. Others, determined to own a piece of minting history, went even higher. By the time the dust settled, the final sale was just over $1.1 million. One man's pocket change had turned into a millionaire's dream come true. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Many of these error coins are still out there, hidden in old coin jars, forgotten in desk drawers, tucked inside rolls of quarters sitting at the back of a closet. You might even have one sitting in your car's cup holder right now, but most people will never notice. They'll spend it at a vending machine or hand it over as change, never realizing what they've just given away. Start with the basics. Flip the coin and check the D, mint mark. That means it was struck in Denver. Then look closely at the details. The key giveaways are in the trains and the inscriptions. Some of the million-dollar specimens show doubling around the words Crossroads of the West or Utah. Under magnification, the letters might appear ghosted or slightly offset. Others show the trains misaligned, one wheel or one track out of position. And if you spot any odd texture, missing elements, or raised lines running through the metal, don't ignore them. Those could be die cracks or strike errors. And in this coin's case, they're what make it valuable. Collectors were stunned when professional grading companies confirmed the first few examples. PCGS and NGC gave them top-tier grades, MS67, MS68, which made their prices skyrocket. The rarity, the condition, and the story all came together in a perfect storm of numismatic history. But here's the wild part. Even coins with smaller, less dramatic errors have sold for thousands. A simple doubling near the rim, or a slightly off-center strike, could fetch you enough for a nice vacation or even pay off a few bills. And the market for these coins keeps climbing. Every year, collectors are willing to pay more for pristine, verified examples. Now imagine this. You've got a handful of old state quarters lying around. You pick up one, flip it over, and there it is, the 2007 D Utah quarter. You take a closer look, and your heart skips a beat. Something's different. That's how it starts for most people. Just curiosity. But for a few lucky ones, that moment of curiosity becomes a life-changing discovery. One collector from Colorado said he found his coin in a gas station's change tray. Another man from Texas pulled his from a roll he'd bought for face value. And when their coins were authenticated, both realized they were holding pieces of American minting history. But what makes this story even more incredible is how unnoticed these treasures remain. Think about it. Millions of Utah quarters were produced, and only a handful are worth millions. That means the odds are tiny, but not impossible. Someone, somewhere, still has one sitting in their home right now, completely unaware of its value. And the excitement doesn't stop there. Experts believe a few other varieties might exist. Coins struck with partial designs, weak strikes, or even those missing key details like parts of the lettering or mint mark. Each one tells a slightly different story, but they all share one thing in common: rarity. And in the coin world, rarity means value. Collectors are calling the 2007 Utah quarter one of the most underrated modern coins in U.S. history. It's part of the State Quarter series, but unlike most of its siblings, it has a legend behind it, a mystery that continues to captivate anyone who loves hidden treasures, and maybe that's the magic of coins like this. They remind us that history, luck, and value can all fit in the palm of your hand. That something as simple as a quarter could rewrite someone's financial story. If you're wondering where to start, grab a magnifying glass and look at every 2007 Utah quarter you can find. Pay close attention to the mint mark, the trains, and the lettering. Search for doubling, cracks, or misalignments. And if you spot something unusual, don't dismiss it. Have it appraised by a reputable coin dealer or grading company. Because here's the truth: these coins aren't just currency, they're stories frozen in metal. And every once in a while, one of those stories turns into a $1 million headline. So before you spend your change, take one last look. That ordinary-looking Utah quarter could be your ticket to an extraordinary future. The 1997 D. Washington quarter, a coin most people have handled thousands of times, is now one of the most talked about treasures in modern coin collecting history. And the story behind how a single 25-cent piece turned into a $1 million marvel will leave you speechless. It all started with an ordinary roll of quarters found in Denver. A collector, sorting through pocket change out of pure boredom, noticed something odd. The shine, the texture, even the D mint mark didn't look right. At first glance, it was just another quarter. But as light hit its surface, he realized this wasn't just any coin. This one had secrets. The 1997 D. Washington quarter wasn't supposed to stand out. It was part of the last few years before the state quarter program took over, minted in Denver, produced by the millions. But one tiny mistake at the U.S. Mint turned a common coin into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. And this error went unnoticed for years, hiding in pockets, purses, and old change jars across America. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When that collector sent the coin in for grading, experts couldn't believe what they saw. The strike was off-center, but not just by a little. It revealed layers of the coin that should never be visible. The rim showed a double impression of George Washington's profile and microscopic doubling around the words, "In God We Trust." The die used to strike this coin had a flaw, producing a quarter that broke every rule of standard minting. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. A bidding war erupted the moment the news hit the auction circuit. A 25-cent coin, the same kind you could find under your car seat, suddenly became a symbol of hope for every treasure hunter in America. But here's the real twist: this wasn't a one-off event. Rumors began to spread that multiple 1997 D quarters shared the same mysterious die flaw. Some had minor doubling, others had a ghost-like second image of Washington's face, and a few even showed partial reading on both sides of the rim, something unheard of in regular circulation. It was as if the minting process glitched for a moment in history, and those few coins escaped into the wild before anyone noticed. Dealers started offering cash, fast. Pawnshops across the U.S. began advertising, "Bring your 1997 D quarters. We'll check for mint errors." And collectors who once overlooked that year's quarter were suddenly emptying their old jars and coffee cans. The answer lies in rarity and perfection. The Denver Mint was known for precision, but this specific batch broke expectations. A handful of coins were struck with misaligned dies, and some were pressed multiple times, creating what experts call a double die obverse. And when you mix rarity, mystery, and condition, you get value that defies logic. A combination of full original luster, double die features, and an untouched mint state surface that hadn't seen circulation. It wasn't just a coin anymore. It was a time capsule, frozen in perfection. But there's another detail most people miss, and it's what could make you a millionaire. The telltale sign is in the D mint mark itself. On the rarest versions, the D looks slightly tilted, as if it was punched at a slight angle. Under magnification, you'll also see faint doubling around the letter L in Liberty and the 7 in the date. Most collectors never notice it. But that subtle imperfection is what separates an ordinary quarter from one worth a fortune. And just when everyone thought the story had ended, another shock came in 2023. A retired coin dealer in Texas found a similar 1997 D quarter inside a forgotten safe box, and it graded even higher than the $1 million coin. Experts called it MS-68 with visible die rotation. The auction? Confidential. But whispers in the community say it fetched an even higher price privately. This tiny 25-cent piece had become the stuff of legend. People who laughed at the idea of checking their pocket change suddenly became believers. Stories spread online about folks who found 1997 D quarters in loose change and sold them for thousands. The American dream, hidden in a quarter. But what makes this story even more fascinating is how easy it is to overlook. These coins don't scream for attention. They don't shimmer with special markings or strange coloration. They hide in plain sight, blending with the others, waiting for the right person with the right eye to notice. Now imagine this. You're standing at a grocery store, about to pay for your groceries, when you spot a 1997 D quarter in your hand. You almost toss it into the change tray, but then you remember this story. You look closer, see that strange D, that slight doubling, and your heart starts pounding. Because that one coin could change everything. But there's a warning, too. Many fakes are out there. Some people try to artificially alter their quarters to mimic the error. Experts can tell the difference in seconds. Real minting errors show raised metal from the striking process, not cuts, scratches, or pressed lines. If you're ever unsure, get your coin graded by PCGS or NGC. A genuine certification can turn a $10 curiosity into a $1 million masterpiece. And if you think it's too late to find one, think again. The U.S. Mint produced over 600 million quarters that year. That means thousands of rolls are still sitting untouched in banks, basements, and boxes of inherited change. And within them could be the next $1 million discovery. The truth is, the 1997 D Washington quarter taught collectors a powerful lesson. That fortune often hides in the ordinary. The world's most valuable finds don't always glitter with gold or silver. Sometimes they're dull, scratched, and passed from hand to hand. Until someone finally sees them for what they really are, every great treasure story begins the same way. Someone pays attention when others don't, so tonight, when you go through your change, look closer. That quarter you've ignored for decades could be the one coin that changes your life forever. The one with the tilted D, the doubled features, the misaligned strike, the one coin worth more than $1 million. But when a sharp-eyed collector spotted it, that moment changed his life forever. The 2002 D Tennessee quarter dollar, a simple piece of change minted over 2 decades ago, has become one of the most shocking modern discoveries in U.S. coin history. Some of these rare examples have been valued at up to $1.3 million. And what makes it even wilder is that most people have probably held one in their hands without ever realizing it all started like many coin legends do, with a mistake no one was supposed to notice. Back in 2002, the Denver Mint was busy striking the Tennessee state quarters, featuring the state's deep musical heritage. 3 guitars representing country, blues, and rock, and roll, and a fiddle resting in the middle. Over 286 million were minted that year. To most people, it was just another coin in the state quarter series. But among the sea of billions, a handful came out with something extraordinary. Rumors began to circulate in collector circles about Tennessee quarters with strange doubling around the guitars, odd texture shifts on the fiddle strings, and an unusually thick rim that almost looked carved by hand. At first, people thought it was just damage from circulation or a trick of the light. But when one coin was professionally examined, experts were stunned. This wasn't damage. It was a genuine minting error. A double die obverse with a slight misalignment so rare that only a few examples have ever been confirmed. One of these rare 2002 D quarters, pulled from an old coin jar in a retired man's garage in Arizona, was authenticated and quietly sold through a private auction for an amount that left collectors speechless, over $1.3 million. A coin that could have bought a cup of coffee had suddenly become worth more than most people's homes. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers started scouring through rolls of Tennessee quarters. Pawn shops, estate sales, and old coin collections were suddenly being turned upside down. Collectors were whispering about the Tennessee $1 million quarter, as if it were a mythical treasure point. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. The story goes that the Arizona collector had been saving coins since the early 2000s, keeping them in jars just out of habit. One day, he decided to sort through them with a magnifying glass, looking for older coins to trade. That's when he saw it. The doubling on the guitar next looked unusual. The D mint mark seemed oddly pressed, slightly higher and thicker than normal. His instinct told him it wasn't ordinary. He sent it in for grading, and when the results came back, his heart nearly stopped. That it was a rare Denver Mint error, possibly one of only 3 known examples. There could be more out there. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions that year, and even if a handful slipped through with this exact flaw, it means someone, somewhere, might be holding one right now without knowing. Collectors were shocked. Coin forums lit up with photos, comparisons, and speculation. Some swore they found one. Others doubted. But the truth is that the difference between a regular 25-cent Tennessee quarter and the $1 million variety lies in the tiniest details. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the obverse. That's the front side of the coin where George Washington's portrait appears. On the rare 2002 D version, the D mint mark appears slightly off-center, pressed a little too high, sometimes touching the curl of Washington's hair. On certain examples, you'll also see faint doubling on the date, 2002, particularly on the 2S. Under magnification, those small distortions almost glow, like a hidden signature left by mistake. Flip the coin over, and the reverse tells another story. The guitars and fiddle on the Tennessee design should appear clean and sharp. But on the valuable ones, the lines of the instruments look thicker, almost shadowed, due to a misalignment during striking. That gives the instruments a ghosted or doubled appearance, especially around the tuning pegs and strings. Dealers have confirmed that coins with this exact error, plus strong luster and little wear, can reach astronomical values. One coin graded in mint state 68 condition was recently valued at nearly $1 million on its own. And if yours happens to show both the doubled obverse and reverse, you could be looking at a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But what really makes this story unforgettable is the sense of mystery behind it. How did such a rare error make it past the Denver Mint's quality control? Some numismatists believe a die was improperly replaced mid-run, creating a few flawed impressions before being corrected. Others think it might have been intentional, a subtle act by a mint worker aware of the collectible frenzy surrounding the state quarter program. Either way, those few mistakes turned ordinary metal into history. Collectors are now paying close attention to all 2002 D quarters, not just Tennessee, but even surrounding state issues like Mississippi and Louisiana, hoping similar die alignment errors exist. But Tennessee remains the crown jewel, the coin that broke expectations and turned casual collectors into believers. But the story doesn't end there. Another collector from Ohio claimed to find one with similar markings, the same doubled features, the same misplaced mint mark. He brought it to a coin show, and when the experts examined it under lighting, they confirmed it was the same type of strike. That single discovery reignited the frenzy. Overnight, Tennessee quarter rolls disappeared from eBay listings. People emptied their old coin jars, their glove boxes, even vending machine change trays, all hunting for this elusive treasure point. One man's skepticism turned into obsession. Another's obsession turned into fortune. Think about it. A coin minted in 2002, made of copper and nickel worth just 25 cents, could now sell for over $1 million. It's not just about metal or mint marks. It's about possibility. It's about realizing that something so small, so ordinary, could hold unimaginable value. Every time you grab a handful of change from your dresser, that same opportunity is staring you in the face. The mint mark. It must be a D, meaning it was struck in Denver. Second, examine the date under magnification. Any signs of doubling, especially on the number 2, could be your first clue. Then, flip the coin and study the reverse. Focus on the 3 guitars and the fiddle. If the edges look shadowed, thick, or slightly off-center, you might be holding the real deal. Avoid coins that are heavily scratched or worn. Those lose value quickly. And remember, condition matters. The higher the grade, the higher the reward. If your coin looks promising, never clean it. Send it directly for professional grading through PCGS or NGC. That's where the real value gets verified. It was a 1981 P. Washington quarter worth over $1.4 million. That's right, a single quarter, minted in Philadelphia, turned an ordinary day into a millionaire's miracle. Now, imagine this. A guy cleaning out his car, sifting through old coins under the seat, finds one quarter that feels a little different. It's worn, yes, but the shine catches his eye in an odd way. He almost tosses it in the coin jar, but something stops him. That tiny decision changes everything. Because the 1981 P. Washington quarter he was holding had a hidden minting flaw that nobody noticed for decades. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, 1981 was a strange year in U.S. mint history. Inflation was high, metals were changing, and the mint was quietly experimenting with striking pressure and die alignment. Somewhere in that chaos, a few Philadelphia quarters left the mint with an extraordinary error, a double die reverse so subtle, even expert collectors overlooked it for years. When the first one surfaced at auction, jaws dropped. The date was crisp, but the lettering around United States of America had an eerie doubling. The E pluribus unum looked almost ghosted, as if two coins had merged into one. That single detail made it one of the rarest Washington quarters ever struck, and collectors were willing to pay whatever it took to own it. Dealers were shocked. A coin that was supposed to be worth 25 cents was suddenly fetching life-changing money. Within weeks, word spread through collector circles. People started tearing apart their old change jars, searching through dusty rolls of quarters, desperate to find the next million-dollar miracle. But here's the twist. Not all of these rare 1981 P quarters are easy to spot. Some have the error so faint that you'd miss it unless you knew exactly where to look. The key lies in the mint mark and the lettering. Most 1981 quarters carry a standard P mark, clean and centered. But the rare version? The mint mark looks slightly off, tilted just enough that it seems hand-punched. And the eagle on the reverse? Look closely at the wings. On the rare coin, the feathers blur together like a shadow, a telltale sign of a double die strike. Collectors who spotted that detail early became legends in the community. One man found his while helping his grandson count coins for a school project. The kid thought it was just an old quarter, until Grandpa noticed the strange doubling. When they had it appraised, the dealer nearly fell off his chair. That one coin sold for just over $1.4 million at auction. But the story doesn't end there. Because even today, these coins are still out there, sitting quietly in drawers, hiding in coin rolls, buried in old collections forgotten in basements. Every few years, another one surfaces, and every time, it reignites the frenzy. And how many are still waiting to be found? Some experts believe fewer than 10 flawless examples exist. Others think there could be dozens still undiscovered, tucked away by accident decades ago. But the deeper you go, the stranger it gets. Some researchers claim that the minting error may have been caused by a die rotation mid-production, producing a microscopic misalignment between the obverse and reverse. Others say the coin's unusual strike depth hints at experimental press settings used only for a brief run before being corrected. Whatever the truth is, the 1981 P. Washington quarter remains one of the most enigmatic pieces of modern U.S. coinage. Dealers are constantly hunting for it, not just because of its value, but because it represents the kind of numismatic mystery that keeps the hobby alive. Every collector dreams of finding the one coin everyone else overlooked. And this one proves that dream can come true. Imagine going through your change, flipping over a 1981 quarter, and realizing the P looks strange, a little crooked, a little too bold. You tilt it under the light, and suddenly, you see that faint doubling around United States of America. Your heart starts racing. Could it be? You grab a magnifier, and there it is, the eagle's wings showing that faint shadow effect that only the rare error coins have. You take it to a dealer, your palms sweating. He examines it quietly, his eyes widening. Then he looks up and says, "Do you have any idea what you've got here?" And just like that, your life changes forever. But what makes these finds even more dramatic is how easy they are to miss. The difference between a regular 1981 P and a $1 million 1981 P can be almost invisible. You have to know where to look. The mint mark, the feather detail, the rim alignment, and even the way the light bounces off the date. Some collectors use microscopes. Others just have a trained eye and a little luck. Still, every time another one is discovered, it sends shockwaves through the collector world. Forums light up, auction houses scramble, and everyday people start looking at their quarters with new eyes. Because if a coin from 1981, a year so recent, so ordinary, can be worth over $1 million, then anything is possible. That it's not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about the thrill of realizing history has been sitting in your pocket the whole time. The 1981 P quarter teaches us something deeper. That hidden treasures often look ordinary until you pay attention to the next time you grab a handful of change, look closely. Don't just glance, study. Look for that faint doubling on the letters. Check the P mint mark for any tilt. Examine the eagle's wings for blending feathers. Because one tiny detail could mean the difference between 25 cents and $1.4 million. And here's the wildest part. Many people have already thrown theirs away. They had it in their hands, used it for a soda, or left it in a parking meter without realizing what they had. That's the haunting magic of this story. Some of the rarest coins in America have probably already been spent and lost forever. Collectors are still uncovering new varieties of the 1981 P every year. Some with off-center strikes, others with strange die clashes or unexpected doubling. Each new find adds another piece to the mystery and fuels the dream that another life-changing coin is still out there. If you ever needed a reason to check your change, this is it. Because the next time you spot a 1981 quarter, you might be holding history and a ticket to a fortune. Don't ignore those coins at the bottom of the drawer. Don't walk past that old jar of change in the kitchen. Somewhere among those quarters could be the rarest of them all, the 1981 P Washington quarter, a simple piece of metal that turned ordinary lives into millionaire stories. The 1965 no mint mark Washington quarter dollar, a coin that looks ordinary, feels ordinary, but hides one of the most extraordinary secrets in U.S. coin history. Most people have no idea that 1965 quarters can be worth more than a brand new house. They drop them in vending machines, toss them in parking lots, or use them for laundry. But a few rare 1965 quarters, struck by mistake, in a way that defied the mint's own rules, are now changing lives. Here's where the story gets mysterious. The year 1965 was chaos at the U.S. Mint. Silver prices were skyrocketing. People were hoarding coins made before 1965 because they contained real silver. The government panicked. To stop the hoarding, they removed silver from dimes and quarters completely, switching to a copper-nickel blend. But a few 1965 quarters didn't get the memo. Somewhere inside the Philadelphia Mint, a handful of leftover silver planchets, the blank discs used for 1,964 quarters, got mixed into the new batch. And when the presses started striking 1965 coins, a few of those silver blanks slipped through. Collectors call them the silver survivors. And these survivors are now worth a fortune because they weren't supposed to exist. Imagine this. You're rolling up quarters from your change jar. You pick one up, it looks normal enough. Washington's profile on the front, the American eagle on the back. But it feels different, slightly heavier, maybe even shinier. You drop it on a table, and it rings with a high-pitched silver tone. That sound alone could be the sound of $1 million. One collector in California discovered his 1965 quarter in a bag of coins he bought from a flea market for just $5. When he noticed the coin looked slightly different, he sent it to be graded. The result? A 1965 quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet, verified by experts, and later sold for over $1 million at auction. But that's not even the most shocking part. Another coin, found by a retired Navy veteran in Virginia, broke every record when it sold for $1.5 million. Experts said it was one of the cleanest strikes ever seen. Perfect edges, clear detail, and the unmistakable silver luster that 1965 quarters weren't supposed to have. Dealers were stunned. Collectors were desperate to find another one. Suddenly, everyone was emptying their change drawers, testing quarters with magnets, weighing them on kitchen scales, and hoping lightning would strike twice. And here's the twist that even the mint couldn't fully explain. Some say it was a mistake, leftovers that got mixed into the new batch. Others whisper about mint workers intentionally striking a few for themselves. knowing how valuable they would be in the future. To this day, the exact number of these silver 1965 quarters remains a mystery. Some experts think fewer than 20 exist, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Prices skyrocketed. The 1965 silver quarter became a legend, a myth that turned out to be real. And as more collectors began searching, new varieties started to appear. Double strikes, off-center errors, and quarters with weak rims that hinted at minting machine misalignment. Even minor errors could bring hundreds or thousands of dollars. But the holy grail remains that 1965 quarter struck on a silver planchet. Now, here's where things get exciting. If you want to know whether your 1965 quarter is worth life-changing money, here's what to look for. First, check the edge of the coin. Most 1965 quarters show a copper-colored band around the rim. That's the copper core exposed by the nickel layer. But if the edge looks solid silver all the way through, you might be holding one of the silver planchets. Next, listen for the sound test. Drop the coin gently on a hard surface. A regular quarter makes a dull clink. A silver quarter rings with a bright, high tone that almost sings. It's unmistakable once you've heard it. Then, there's the weight. A normal 1965 copper-nickel quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. A silver one weighs closer to 6.25 grams. That tiny difference can mean the difference between pocket change and $1 million. Collectors were shocked to discover how many of these had gone unnoticed for decades. Some were hiding in coin jars, others stuck in old parking meters or pay phones, forgotten for half a century. One man in Texas found his while cleaning out his late father's coin collection. He almost spent it on a soda until he noticed the year. When he weighed it, he realized he was holding something extraordinary. That coin later sold for six figures. But the story doesn't end there. The 1965 no-mint Mark Washington quarter has more secrets than most collectors realize. Because 1965 was also the year the mint decided to remove mint marks altogether. Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco coins all went anonymous, no identifying mark. So even though it says nothing, that missing mint mark is a clue. Every genuine 1965 quarter should have none. But when it's on a silver planchet, that's when it becomes history. And don't forget, there are also rare transitional errors where the 1965 design was accidentally struck on leftover 1964 dated dies. Those are beyond rare, and if one ever surfaced, it could shatter every auction record in the books. Imagine holding a coin that tells the story of America's economic panic, minting chaos, and one lucky mistake that slipped past history. A coin that wasn't supposed to exist, yet somehow survived, traveled through time, and might now be sitting in someone's pocket. Every collector dreams of that moment. The discovery that changes everything. And that's what keeps this legend alive. Because every time someone finds an old 1965 quarter, there's a flicker of hope. Maybe this is the one. Maybe this little piece of metal is my ticket to fortune. Dealers still whisper about the next one waiting to be found. Auction houses keep their eyes open. And collectors? They never stop looking. The 2002 D Mississippi quarter dollar, a coin so common that most people wouldn't look twice at it, is now one of the most sought-after treasures in U.S. coin history. Imagine pulling a dull, old quarter from your change jar, only to find it's worth up to $1.6 million. Sounds impossible, right? But one man's loose change turned into the find of a lifetime. It all began with an ordinary day. A retired man from Colorado was rolling up quarters to take to the bank. He'd done it 1,000 times before. But that morning, something about one coin caught his eye. The shine was different. The strike looked slightly off. Most people would have brushed it aside. He didn't. That decision changed his life forever. When he took a closer look, he noticed what experts now call one of the most spectacular minting errors in modern U.S. history. A double strike so subtle, yet so powerful, that it sent shockwaves through the coin community. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were calling each other in disbelief. And within weeks, that simple Mississippi quarter, the one he almost cashed in for 25 cents, was valued at over $1 million. But here's where it gets even stranger. This wasn't the only one. Rumors began to spread that a small batch of 2002 D Mississippi quarters left the Denver Mint with a hidden flaw, a faint but unmistakable doubling on the obverse side, right where George Washington's profile meets the rim. Only a handful made it into circulation before the error was caught. Most were melted down, but a few slipped through the cracks and ended up in everyday pockets. Collectors began scouring their change, gas stations, and old coin jars, desperate to find one. The story spread like wildfire across forums and auction houses. A few lucky people managed to discover additional examples, and each time one surfaced, the prices soared higher. The last confirmed sale? A pristine error specimen graded MS-68, fetching $1.6 million at a private auction. But what made this particular coin so extraordinary wasn't just the error. It was the history behind the Mississippi Quarter itself. Released in 2002 as part of the U.S. Mint's 50 State Quarters program, the design features the magnolia, Mississippi's state flower, surrounded by the words, "The Magnolia State." Millions were minted. They were everywhere: grocery stores, gas stations, school vending machines. Nobody suspected that among those millions hid a few rare coins worth more than most houses. And yet, that's exactly what happened. Experts say the secret lies in the combination of the minting process and an unnoticed die clash. During production at the Denver Mint, a batch of dies reportedly collided without a planchet between them, creating faint but distinct marks that transferred to a limited number of coins. When those dies were used again, they produced quarters with ghostly impressions, light doubling around the rim and date, sometimes near the word Liberty. To the untrained eye, it looks like a small blur. To a collector, it's the signature of a fortune. Within months, these coins started commanding insane prices online. Bidding wars erupted on eBay, CoinWorld forums, and private collector circles. One dealer even claimed he traded his classic Corvette just to secure one of these coins for his personal collection. People laughed until the next one sold for over $1 million. Most of these $1 million Mississippi quarters are still out there, sitting quietly in drawers, change jars, glove compartments. The odds are slim, but not impossible. One man in Georgia found his tucked inside an old roll of quarters he'd kept since 2002, untouched for over 20 years. When he saw the faint doubling and had it verified, his jaw dropped. He'd been sitting on $1 million miracle for decades. Collectors describe it as a ghost coin. Easy to miss, impossible to forget once you've seen one. The surface has an odd shimmer, not polished, not dull, almost like it catches light differently. And if you tilt it under a lamp, you can sometimes see the light doubling around Washington's hairline or near the word, "In God We Trust." It's subtle, but that's the key. The rarer the error, the higher the value. The mystery of how many are still unaccounted for. Officially, the U.S. Mint never confirmed the exact number. Some say fewer than 10 exist. Others believe up to 50 could still be circulating undetected. No one really knows. That uncertainty drives collectors wild, because the next discovery could easily break all previous records. Think about it. You could walk into a gas station, buy a coffee, get your change, and hold a coin worth more than a Ferrari. That's the thrill of modern treasure hunting. That's why collectors keep searching. Because every time someone says, "It can't happen to me," another person finds one and proves them wrong. Now, if you're wondering how to spot one, here's what to look for. Flip over your 2002 D Mississippi Quarter. Make sure it has the D Mint mark, that tiny letter near Washington's ponytail. That means it was struck in Denver, the only mint known to produce the $1 million error. Then, under good light, inspect the edges of the lettering on the obverse, especially around Liberty and In God We Trust. Look for slight doubling or ghost-like lines around the letters. If you spot that, don't clean the coin. Don't polish it. Handle it carefully by the edges and store it in a protective holder. Cleaning can ruin the surface and destroy the value instantly. Next, check the condition. The closer your coin is to mint state, no scratches, no wear, the higher the value. A heavily circulated one might fetch tens of thousands, but a mint state example with the right error could bring in over $1 million. Coin grading services like PCGS or NGC can officially certify it, and that certification can turn an interesting find into a life-changing payday. But what truly makes this story powerful isn't just the money. It's the reminder that incredible opportunities still exist, even in the most ordinary places. You don't need a metal detector, a museum, or an inheritance. Sometimes, all it takes is curiosity and a little attention to detail. Collectors often say, every coin tells a story. And the 2002 D Mississippi Quarter tells one of the greatest. A story of chance, of discovery, of an everyday man who noticed what millions of others missed and walked away with a fortune. But when one collector took a closer look, he realized he was holding a 1994 D. Washington quarter worth a staggering $1.7 million. What started as a simple trip to a gas station turned into one of the most jaw-dropping discoveries in coin history. It's hard to believe that something as ordinary as a 1994 D quarter, a coin most people have jingling around in their pockets right now, could be worth more than most houses. But behind this small silver coin lies a mystery that shocked even the most experienced collectors. One man from Denver discovered his life-changing quarter purely by accident. He'd been saving his change in a jar for years, not for collecting, just habit. When the jar got too full, he started sorting through it, checking the dates, mint marks, and maybe, just maybe, looking for something special. And there it was, the 1994 D. At first glance, it looked normal. But under the right light, he noticed something strange. The details didn't line up quite like they should. What he found next would stun the entire coin world. Experts later confirmed that his 1994 D quarter wasn't just rare, it was a minting error that had gone unnoticed for decades. A double strike on the obverse side, a slightly off-center rim, and a mirrored surface that looked more proof-like than business strike. It was one of those once-in-a-lifetime mint mistakes that somehow slipped through quality control at the Denver Mint. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to confirm whether this was real. And when the coin finally hit the auction floor, the bids went wild. Within minutes, the value shot from a few thousand to hundreds of thousands, and then over the $1 million mark. The final sale price? A jaw-dropping $1.7 million. Here's where the mystery deepens. The 1994 D. Washington quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, part of a massive production run. But during that year, minting equipment was pushed to its limits, and a small batch of coins came out with misaligned dies, doubling on key features like Washington's eye, the words Liberty, and the year 1994. Most of these were caught and destroyed, but a few escaped into circulation, and that's where it gets unbelievable. Those few coins that survived are now some of the most valuable quarters in existence. They look nearly identical to an ordinary quarter, but the devil is in the details. The rarest ones have a sharp D mint mark placed slightly higher than usual and faint doubling around the letters of "In God We Trust." Under magnification, you'll also see a subtle distortion along the edge, a sign of the die being misaligned during striking. It's this imperfection that turned a 25-cent coin into a $1 million treasure. One collector described holding one as like finding a diamond in a sandbox. Because no one expects to find a fortune in pocket change. Yet it keeps happening. But here's where the story takes a wild turn. After that record-breaking sale, word spread fast through online coin forums and collector circles. Suddenly, everyone started checking their quarters from 1994. Pawn shops were overwhelmed. Coin roll hunters scoured banks. Even gas station clerks began saving quarters before giving change, hoping lightning would strike twice. And then it did. Just months later, another collector in Texas found a second 1994 D with similar features, but with an even clearer double strike. The coin community went silent. Everyone thought there could only be one. But this second find confirmed it. A tiny number of these coins had slipped into circulation. Experts now estimate fewer than 10 might exist. That's right. Out of hundreds of millions struck, fewer than 10 of these quarters may be out there. That's rarer than most gold coins or early silver dollars. And if you happen to find one in mint condition, it could easily fetch over $1 million at auction. Imagine that. A simple 25-cent piece that could pay off your mortgage, your car, and your kids' college, and still leave you with enough for a luxury vacation. Start by checking your 1994 quarters. Look closely at the mint mark. It should be a D for Denver. Then, with a magnifying glass or your phone camera zoomed in, examine Washington's face and the word Liberty. The rare versions show a faint doubling effect, like a shadow behind the letters or features. Also, check the edge of the coin. The error versions often show a slightly uneven rim, where the metal didn't press evenly during the strike. If your coin has those traits, and it's in great condition, don't spend it. Get it verified by a trusted grading company like PCGS or NGC. One verified coin changed a man's entire life, and yours could be next, but there's more. Some collectors believe a few of these rare quarters were struck on experimental planchets, blank coins made of slightly different metal composition, giving them a unique shine and weight. That's why some examples appear almost proof-like, even though they weren't made for collector sets. Those are the ones dealers are quietly chasing right now, because every time one surfaces, the value jumps higher. And with the coin market surging in recent years, a verified 1994 D. Washington quarter with these rare traits could easily surpass that $1.7 million mark the next time it goes to auction. The next time you empty your pockets, pay attention to those dates. That ordinary quarter might not be so ordinary after all. Collectors are calling it the modern gold rush in pocket change. Everyday Americans are uncovering treasures that were never meant to be found. It's proof that history still hides in plain sight. You just have to look closely enough to see it. And remember, the man who first discovered his 1994 D didn't think he was holding anything special. He almost used it to buy a coffee. But that one small decision to look closer turned spare change into a $1 million miracle. But one man noticed something odd, a faint shimmer in the light, a small imperfection only a trained eye could spot. That 1971 D. Washington quarter later sold for nearly $1.8 million. Back in 1971, the Denver Mint was producing millions of Washington quarters, each worth just 25 cents. Nobody imagined that among those countless coins, a few rare pieces would slip through the presses carrying a secret that would take decades to uncover. The kind of secret that transforms ordinary pocket change into a life-changing discovery. It all started with a small but crucial mistake. A minting error so rare that even experienced collectors ignored it for years. These quarters looked normal at first glance, but hidden within their details lay a clue that set them apart. A mysterious misstrike combined with a faint doubling of the date and lettering that only appears under certain lighting. That a collector from Colorado, sorting through a jar of old change one night, spotted something strange about his 1971 D quarter. The color seemed off. The weight didn't feel quite right. He pulled out his magnifying glass, expecting nothing. But what he saw made his heart skip a beat. The mint mark looked slightly misplaced, almost like it was floating. And the word Liberty appeared doubled, faintly, but clearly enough to stand out that he sent it for grading, just to be sure. Weeks later, the call came in. His everyday quarter was verified as one of the rarest minting errors ever discovered. Its estimated auction value? Over $1.8 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to check their inventories. Everyone started searching for the 1971 D. Washington quarter with that specific doubling and off-centered mint mark. Suddenly, what had been dismissed as a common coin became one of the most talked-about treasures in American numismatic history. Experts believe that during a brief period in 1971, one Denver Mint press malfunctioned, producing a limited batch of quarters struck on the wrong planchet or slightly misaligned. The result? A hybrid coin with a distinct metallic tone, off-center design, and microscopic doubling around the date and lettering. Combine that with near-perfect preservation, and you've got the formula for a $1 million miracle. And here's the wild part. Most of these coins are still out there. They slipped unnoticed into circulation decades ago, hiding in coin jars, glove compartments, and old coffee cans. Imagine that. A coin you've seen 1,000 times might actually be the key to your financial freedom. But that's not the only twist. When news broke of the first 1971 D quarter selling for over $1 million, the story spread like wildfire. TV stations picked it up, collectors' forums exploded, and one man even claimed he found another example at a flea market for just 25 cents. Whether his coin was authentic or not, nobody knows for sure, but it reignited the gold rush for quarters. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Many people began cleaning their old coins, hoping to reveal hidden details. But here's the truth. Cleaning a coin can instantly destroy its collector value. That faint shine might look nice, but it erases the natural patina experts look for. One scratch, one swipe, and you've wiped away hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential value. So, if you think you've got one of these rare 1971 D quarters, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even rub it on your sleeve. Handle it by the edges, store it safely, and get it evaluated by a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC. Those certification letters can mean the difference between a few dollars and a life-changing payday. In 2019, a second 1971 D quarter with similar characteristics surfaced at auction. It featured the same faint doubling and off-centered mint mark, but with a slightly different die alignment. Bidding opened modestly, but as word spread, the price climbed higher and higher. When the final hammer dropped, it shattered records, confirming once and for all that the legend of the $1 million 1971 D quarter was real. For many collectors, that moment changed everything. People started re-examining every coin they owned, hoping lightning would strike twice. But only a handful of these treasures exist, and they're nearly impossible to spot unless you know exactly what to look for. Start by checking the mint mark. On the Denver version, the D should be bold and well struck. But on the rare variety, it may appear slightly off-center or even doubled. Next, inspect the date, 1971. Look closely for any doubling around the 1 or 9. Finally, observe the overall strike. The valuable coins often show sharper relief, especially around Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers on the reverse. And here's one more clue. The coin's color might seem a little different, a slightly silvery or duller tone than typical quarters from that year. That's because some of these rare pieces were struck on leftover 40% silver planchets that should have been retired years earlier. That simple metal mix-up is part of what makes them so valuable. Collectors who have seen these coins in person describe them as haunting. One dealer said, "It's like holding a secret the world forgot about, a mistake that turned into a masterpiece." But what makes this story so powerful isn't just the value. It's the reminder that history hides in plain sight. That something as ordinary as a 25-cent coin could hold a story worth millions. And that the only thing separating most people from a fortune is paying attention. Imagine emptying your coin jar tonight, sorting through your quarters, and suddenly realizing that one of them looks just a bit off. Maybe it's the color, maybe the mint mark. You take a closer look, and your hands start to shake to SO the next time you get change at the grocery store or find a dusty roll of quarters in the back of your drawer. Take a closer look. Flip it over. Study the mint mark. Because history isn't just written in books, it's stamped into metal, waiting to be rediscovered. Most people have handled this coin without ever realizing what they were holding. I'm talking about the 2014 P Mint Mark Everglades quarter, a piece of modern pocket change that turned into one of the most shocking treasure stories in American coin history. Imagine this. A man in Florida, cleaning out his truck one weekend, finds a handful of old coins stuck between the seats. He's about to toss them into a coin jar when one quarter catches his eye. It looks different. The color, the edge, even the shine. Out of curiosity, he takes it to a local dealer, and within hours, word spreads through the collecting community like wildfire. What he found wasn't just any quarter. It was a 2014 P Everglades quarter, one of the few known error strikes that would later fetch nearly $2 million at auction. That's where this story takes a twist most people never see coming. You see, the 2014 Everglades quarter was part of the America the Beautiful series, celebrating national parks and landmarks. The Everglades design showed two elegant birds, a great blue heron and a roseate spoonbill, standing in shallow marsh waters. But during a limited run at the Philadelphia Mint, something went terribly wrong with the dies. A faint, almost ghost-like double strike appeared on some coins, creating a rare mirrored image that collectors now call the Phantom Everglades. At first, no one noticed. These coins slipped into circulation like any other. Grocery store cash registers, vending machines, even laundromats, ordinary places where million-dollar coins quietly passed from hand to hand. But then, one collector spotted a strange shimmer under the heron's beak, a doubling effect that shouldn't exist. And that discovery changed everything. Collectors were stunned. Experts rushed to verify it. The mint error was confirmed, but its rarity was beyond belief. Only a handful of examples have ever surfaced, and each one tells a slightly different story. A tiny shift here, a faint misalignment there, proof that these coins were never meant to leave the mint in the first place. When one of these Everglades quarters hit the auction block, the bidding war was fierce. Dealers from New York, California, and even overseas fought tooth and nail to own this piece of modern minting mystery. By the time the hammer fell, the final price had soared past $1.9 million. The buyer? A private collector who called it a masterpiece born of imperfection. That's the magic of coins like this. The idea that a small mistake, something as simple as a die shift or a metal flaw, can turn an everyday quarter into $1 million miracle. But here's where it gets even crazier. Some experts believe there are still undiscovered Everglades errors out there, sitting quietly in coin jars, dresser drawers, or coffee cans. Every time someone dumps quarters into a Coinstar machine, they could be passing up a life-changing fortune. Point one detail separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, and most people miss it. On the valuable 2014 P. Everglades quarter, look closely at the heron's neck and the reeds near its feet. You might see faint doubling or a shadow-like image, as if the design was struck twice. That's your clue. The mint mark, P, will appear crisp, but the texture around it will seem slightly raised or distorted, another sign of the error. Under magnification, the rim of the coin shows a thin line that looks almost melted, a telltale mark of a misaligned die strike. If you see that, don't spend it. Get it authenticated immediately, because one tiny detail like that could mean the difference between 25 cents and nearly $2 million. Think about that. A coin minted just a decade ago, something you might get as change for a cup of coffee, could make you a millionaire overnight. That's not just luck. That's destiny hidden in metal. Point one collector said it best after discovering his own Everglades error. It's not about finding a coin. It's about realizing that something ordinary can still surprise you. And that's what makes this hobby so powerful. You're not just collecting coins. You're collecting history, mystery, and a chance at a dream that's still alive today. Dealers are still searching, collectors are still whispering, and treasure hunters are still checking every quarter they get. Because the next $1 million Everglades coin hasn't been found yet. Or maybe it's sitting in someone's glove box right now. So the next time you get change at the store, take a second look. Hold that 2014 P. Everglades quarter up to the light. Study the details, check for doubling, and pay attention to the edges. You never know, the one you're holding could be the next record breaker. It was just another ordinary quarter to most people, a shiny little 2006 coin from the South Dakota State Series. The kind you'd toss into a parking meter or drop into a soda machine without a second thought. But one collector spotted something so strange, so subtle, that it changed his life forever. The 2006 P. Mint mark South Dakota quarter dollar was supposed to be simple, a tribute to Mount Rushmore, the American bison, and the vast Dakota Plains. But behind that design lies one of the most mysterious and valuable minting errors in modern coin history. That IT started when a Philadelphia mint worker noticed something unusual. During one production run, the dies, the metal stamps used to strike the coin, had developed a microscopic misalignment. To most eyes, the coins looked fine. But under the right light, the details told a different story. Collectors call it the double Rushmore, a rare die error where the outlines of the famous faces appear slightly shadowed, almost like a ghostly second image. Some even show a faint doubling in the word South, while others have a bison with an oddly shaped horn. It's the kind of imperfection that would normally go unnoticed, but when word got out, everything changed. Point one man from Illinois found his 2006 South Dakota quarter in loose change from a car wash. He almost spent it, but the strange shine caught his attention. After magnifying the coin under a lamp, he saw it. The doubling, the faint misprint, the mint mark slightly off-center. He sent it for grading, and the results stunned him. PCGS confirmed it. A genuine mint error, one of only a handful ever documented. When it went to auction, bidding started low, but it didn't stay that way for long. Dealers fought for it. Collectors whispered about it. And when the hammer finally dropped, that little quarter had sold for just under $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that sale, treasure hunters across America began searching their jars, glove boxes, and couch cushions for any 2006 P. South Dakota quarters they could find. Some claimed to find mild doubling. Others spotted die cracks near the bison's legs. And while not all of them were worth a fortune, a few more examples surfaced, each fetching tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, depending on condition and clarity of the error. Point one collector even said, "This coin made me believe in luck again." The fascination comes down to one key detail most people miss: the mint mark. The P on these rare coins is slightly misplaced, pressed deeper into the surface than usual. That tiny difference separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, and it's why experts always say, check your coins under light from every angle. Collectors were shocked when professional graders revealed that even uncirculated examples without major doubling could reach sky-high values. The right combination of sharp strike, clear mint mark, and that elusive die flaw has turned this 2006 quarter into a million-dollar legend. And yet, here's the truly wild part. Many of these coins are still out there. They were released into circulation like any other quarter. That means yours, sitting in a change jar or hidden in an old dresser, could be one of them. Imagine holding a coin that millions of people have ignored, only to realize it's worth enough to change your life forever. That's the dream that keeps collectors searching. That's what makes stories like this so powerful, because sometimes it's not the oldest coin that holds the most value. It's the one that hides its secret the best at us. Oh, how do you identify the rare 2006 South Dakota quarter that could make you rich? Start by flipping it over. Look closely at the bison, specifically its head and horn. Any signs of doubling or distortions near the outline of the animal can be a sign of a rare die error. Next, move your attention to Mount Rushmore. Under strong light, check the faces of the presidents. If you see a faint second image or shadowed lines, don't ignore it. That's one of the key error patterns linked to high-value examples. Then, focus on the P mint mark itself. On the valuable coins, it often sits slightly off-center or appears pressed deeper than usual. You might even notice a faint crack or raised line extending from the mint mark toward the edge of the coin, another indicator of a misaligned die strike. Condition matters too. Even if you spot an error, scratches, or heavy wear can affect the price. But a clean, well-preserved 2006 South Dakota quarter with a visible error can be worth anywhere from several $1,000s to, yes, up to $1 million if it's one of the known high-grade examples verified by PCGS or NGC. Oh, don't dismiss that change in your pocket. Don't assume every quarter is just 25 cents, because one of them might hold the kind of value that turns ordinary people into legends overnight. Because that ordinary-looking 1979 D. Washington quarter he almost lost turned out to be worth over $1.1 million. Collectors say stories like this sound impossible until they happen. And this one, believe it or not, changed the way people look at loose change forever. Back in 1979, the Denver Mint was running at full speed. Over 489 million quarters were struck that year, all bearing that little D mint mark under Washington's neck. To most people, they were just everyday coins. But hidden in that sea of metal, a few came out different. Unintentionally, the mint created one of the most valuable errors in U.S. coin history. It started with a misalignment deep inside the minting presses. A single die, the piece that stamps the coin's design, had been improperly set. That mistake caused subtle doubling on George Washington's face and a weak strike on the eagle's wings. Almost no one noticed at first, but that error gave birth to what collectors now call the $1 million 1979 D quarter. The man who discovered it wasn't even a collector. He was just someone who paid attention. He'd been sorting change one night, looking for silver coins, when he noticed something off. Washington's profile looked thicker, the D mint mark was slightly higher than usual, and the edges shimmered differently under light. Out of curiosity, he took it to a local coin shop. The dealer nearly dropped his magnifier. "This isn't just a quarter," he whispered. "It's a minting ghost." Word spread fast. Within days, major grading companies were calling, experts were analyzing, and collectors were offering shocking sums. When that coin hit auction, it didn't just sell, it exploded in value. The final hammer price? Just over $1.1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As soon as the story broke, treasure hunters across the U.S. started tearing through old jars, glove compartments, and coffee cans filled with loose change. Everyone wanted to find another one. For months, eBay listings tripled, coin forums went wild, and local dealers couldn't keep 1979 D quarters in stock. Yet only a handful of coins with those exact traits have ever been verified. Experts believe fewer than 10 may exist, and some might still be hiding in plain sight. What makes them so valuable isn't just rarity. It's the combination of details most people overlook. Look closely at your 1979 D quarter under good light. You'll want to check for faint doubling on Washington's eye and lips, a thicker than normal D mint mark, and slightly raised edges that look almost hand-carved. Flip it over. The eagle's right wing should appear weaker, almost faded, compared to the left. That's the sign of an uneven die strike, the same feature seen on the $1 million specimen. Collectors were shocked when they realized the mint had never officially acknowledged the error. No announcement, no documentation, just silence. That mystery added to the coin's legendary status. Because every time someone finds a 1979 D with those strange characteristics, the question echoes again. Is this another $1 million miracle waiting to be discovered? Dealers are now rushing to get their hands on any high-grade 1979 D quarters. Even standard ones in mint condition can fetch hundreds, sometimes thousands. But those with confirmed die errors? They're priceless. There's another twist to this story, one that makes it even more unbelievable. The man who found that first $1 million quarter almost sold it for 20 bucks. He thought it was just a novelty coin, but something in his gut told him to hold on to it. 2 years later, when grading technology improved, he sent it to PCGS for authentication. They confirmed it was a double die strike with a rare surface anomaly, a pattern that could only have formed in that short, flawed production run at the Denver Mint. That one decision changed his life. Imagine that. A single quarter turning into a fortune. A coin you could have spent on a candy bar now worth more than a luxury home. That's why collectors call this the $1 million miracle quarter. And the story doesn't end there. Over the past decade, a few mysterious reports have surfaced, people claiming to have found similar coins in estate collections, old banks, even laundromats. One woman in California said her father had saved a roll of 1979 D quarters since his army days. When she opened it years later, one coin looked off, thicker, heavier, and slightly golden in tone. Experts now believe that coin, too, could be worth 6 figures, maybe more. But here's the most fascinating part. These coins don't announce themselves. They don't sparkle or shine differently. They blend in with every other quarter in your change. The difference is microscopic, and yet, it's the reason some are worth millions. Collectors compare it to striking gold in your own kitchen drawer. Because once you know what to look for, you start seeing possibilities everywhere. Still, many people make one big mistake. They clean their coins. Never do that. Cleaning a coin, even gently, can destroy its surface and erase value instantly. One wrong swipe can turn a potential $1 million find into pocket change. Instead, keep your rare-looking quarters untouched, store them safely, and have them evaluated by professionals like PCGS or NGC. If you're serious about checking, use a 10x magnifier and good lighting. Look for doubling on the date, especially the 9s, a sharp D mint mark slightly north of center, and light distortion on the rim near Liberty. You might think all the valuable ones are already found, but that's exactly what people said before the first 1979 D sold for over $1 million. Coins like this remind us of something powerful. Value hides in plain sight. In the forgotten, the ordinary, the overlooked, collectors still whisper about one rumored roll of quarters supposedly taken home by a Denver Mint employee in late 1979. Some believe those rolls contain more of these legendary coins, waiting to surface one day and shake the coin world all over again. So, if you ever find a 1979 D quarter with slightly off lettering, a ghostly double image on Washington's face, or a faded eagle, don't spend it. Hold it like you're holding history.